Beneath the Velvet Ashes by Shimon. Prologue. The wind howled sharply like a banshee as Elysia Ndidi clutched the edge of the ship's railing, eyes scanning the white abyss of ice floes stretching endlessly before her. It was not just the cold that gnawed at her heart, but the growing uncertainty of her future. She had come to this desolate Antarctic landscape with dreams of restoring her family's once great business, only to find the entire venture teetering on the brink of collapse. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the night sky a breathtaking sheen of orange and purple, the echo of a boot behind her jolted her from her thoughts. Turning, her breath caught at the sight of him, tall, dark, and utterly captivating with an intensity that made her pulse race. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he murmured, a teasing smirk playing on his lips. And just like that, the cold of the world began to melt away under the heat of a hidden fire ignited between them. Scene 1. A threat in the air. Elysia Ndidi stood in her office, the late afternoon sun filtering through frosted glass, casting lines of shadow across the pristine hardwood floor. She stared at the note resting on her mahogany desk, heart thrumming in her chest like an overzealous drummer. The faint scent of fresh coffee lingered, but all she could taste was the metallic tang of anxiety. Her fingers trembled as she plucked the note from its resting place. The elegant script, a stark contrast to its content, taunted her. "You don't know what you're dealing with. Your Antarctic venture will collapse if you don't step back. This is your only warning." Just outside her window, the world bustled on, people lost in their routines, oblivious to the hurricane brewing in her life. A fine sheen of sweat formed on her brow as she clenched her jaw, forcing down a wave of panic. "Elysia?" A familiar voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Kymani Taragon, tall, dark, and undeniably magnetic, stepped into her office, his brow furrowed with concern. His presence was like a lighthouse, grounding her amid the storm. "You look like you've seen a ghost." She forced a smile, though it wavered. "Just business stress." The hesitation clung to the air between them like a weight. It would be easy to slide into an effortless banter dancing around the issue, but the truth loomed large. "Business stress has that lovely effect on women," Kymani said, crossing his arms, the rich fabric of his tailored suit straining against his muscles. "What's really bothering you?" His deep voice was low, soothing, threaded with a hint of teasing, yet the concern behind his gaze was palpable. Elysia held up the note gingerly, as if it were a fragile artifact from a haunted past. "I received this today." He stepped closer, the rich scent of sandalwood soap enveloping her like a warm embrace. She hated that he had this power over her, a mere gust of warmth that sent her heart racing while simultaneously crippling her resolve. "What does it say? What does it look like?" Elysia snapped, her tension snapping like a brittle twig. Immediately, she regretted it, wincing as the air crackled with tension. "Sorry, I just—" Kymani softened, uncrossing his arms and stepping toward her, the inches between them slowly dissipating. "You don't have to be sorry. Just tell me." With a sigh, she read aloud, determination pushing back the tide of fear. "Your Antarctic venture will collapse if you don't step back." She caught his gaze, his expressions shifting from concern to something more intense, igniting a fire in the pit of her stomach. "I don't know how they found out." His posture changed, something fierce and protective flaring behind those dark eyes. "I won't let anyone hurt you, Elysia." The air was thickening, each word heavy and lingering. The tension skated along her skin, simmering. "It's not just about me, it's my company, my employees." She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her ambition pressing against her ribcage, curtailing her breath. "If I fail, I drag them down with me." Kymani's expression shifted, storm clouds gathering where warmth had been. "You won't fail. You're stronger than you think. Let me help you." "Help? Is that your answer to everything?" she quipped, but a flicker of longing crossed her heart. "I can't keep running to you every time things get tough." "Why not?" His voice dipped, grazing against the edges of her frustration. "You call it running. I call it two people fighting against the tide together." Elysia felt her breath catch as Kymani stepped even closer, each heartbeat echoing like thunder against the backdrop of her doubts. "I've got this," she insisted, almost as a mantra. But even as the words escaped, she felt the fragility of her conviction. As their eyes locked, the air around them thickened with an unspoken promise, the comfort of understanding laced with the tension of proximity. The room transformed, a battleground of emotions where they were both growing weary from the fight against their own fears. Kymani reached out, fingertips brushing against hers, igniting a spark that locked them both in place. "You're not alone. Not now, not ever," he murmured, each word wrapping around her heart like the tender embrace she had yearned for. And in that moment, the weight of the world outside faded. It was just them, caught between the threat of the unknown and the whispered echoes of possibility. "Then let's fight it together," Elysia said softly, a smile tugging at her lips, warmth flooding her veins. After all, beneath the velvet ashes of doubt, there was a fire waiting to be kindled. Scene 2, Collision Course. The sun hung low in the September sky, casting a warm golden hue across the bustling financial district of Manhattan. Elysia Ndidi leaned against the cool glass of her office window, taking a moment to breathe deeply. The faint aroma of roasted coffee from the bustling cafe below mixed with the city's distant hum, grounding her in the present. She tucked a stray curl behind her ear, her heart racing as her mind wrestled with the enormity of the presentation she was about to give. Today, everything depended on it: a new investor, fresh capital, and the pivotal chance to elevate her brand in a cutthroat industry. Suddenly, a shadow flickered past her peripheral vision. Elysia turned, her breath stalling as Kymani Taragon, sleek in a tailored navy suit that seemed to absorb the attention of the room, strode through the office door like a storm come to upend the tranquility. The office staff fell silent, the air thick with a charged curiosity. "Elysia," Kymani greeted, his velvety tone smooth and confident, just like the man himself. He advanced, each step a deliberate measure of his unbridled charisma. "I hope this isn't a bad time." Her pulse quickened, not from nervousness, but from an inexplicable thrill. "Kymani," she replied, an edge of surprise lacing her voice. "You certainly know how to make an entrance." He chuckled softly, a sound that unraveled something tightly knotted within her. "I'll take that as a compliment. Is it too much to hope for an audience with the brilliant mind behind Ndidi Enterprises?" Elysia glanced back at her computer screen, the half-finished slides a stark reminder of her anxiety. "Just a typical meeting with investors. You know how it is, talking about visions, numbers, and all that riveting content." "Riveting indeed," he said, the glimmer in his eye igniting sparks of mischief. "It's even more riveting in person, if you promise to dazzle me. I see you're as charming as ever." She crossed her arms, fighting the impulse to smile. "Is this a friendly visit, or are you here to scout the competition?" "Couldn't it be both?" Kymani shrugged, feigning innocence, yet a flicker of something deeper brimming just beneath the surface. There was a weighty pause for a moment, the kind that dared them to lean closer or take a step back. Elysia felt it like a magnetic pull. "What do you want from me?" She couldn't help the teasing tone that laced her words, but her heart raced from the vulnerability beneath her bravado. "Honestly, to steal some of your time, or better yet, a piece of your wisdom." His gaze held hers, steady and inviting, a depth that felt electrifying yet intimidating. She shifted, focusing on the gritty concrete just beyond the glass. The city was alive outside, bustling with a relentless energy that felt distant from the tension swirling within the room. "What if I don't want to share?" Kymani stepped closer, invading her personal space with an ease that made her breath hitch, although the playful curl of his lips hinted at amusement. "Ah, but you will. After all, you're curious about what I'm doing here, aren't you?" "Curiosity or dread?" she countered, her eyes narrowing. Although trapped in his magnetic gaze, she felt lightheaded. "Perhaps a little of both." He leaned in even closer, an infectious grin teasing at the corners of his mouth. "But I'd wager it's more curiosity. I'm here to help." Elysia raised an eyebrow, suddenly skeptical. "Help? Is that what you call it when powerful men descend on desperate situations?" Kymani's laughter rang in the space between them, warm and rich. "Touché! But you know me better than that." The warmth of his presence enveloped her, stirring a dangerous longing. "Do I? Or is it all just a well-rehearsed act?" Elysia challenged, her heart pounding as the tension thickened like the air before a storm. Silence fell, pregnant with unvoiced thoughts and feelings. Kymani, unwavering, leaned in slightly, and for an electrifying moment her breath hitched again, a hair's breadth away. His masculine scent enveloped her, a mix of cedarwood and something delectably complex. "Here's the truth, Elysia." His voice softened into a fervent whisper. "I might have come for this opportunity of ours, but—" His lips brushed against hers, igniting a surge of sensation that lit up her skin. It was soft, hesitant, yet filled with an urgency that made her core ignite with unexpected passion. A moment suspended in time before both of them pulled back, panting lightly, the world outside slipping into an insignificant hum. "What was that?" Elysia breathed, filled with bewilderment. "Just a taste of what we could create together," Kymani responded with a smirk, the lines of tension temporarily alleviated but the stakes somehow higher, and a reminder to keep your enemies close. Elysia's heart raced, aware that this collision course had only just begun. Scene 3: Into the Frost. A faint mist clung to the air as Elysia Ndidi adjusted her scarf, pulling it tighter against the biting chill. The ground beneath her began to crunch, a symphony of frost-tipped grass and powdered whispers as her boots crunched through the crystalline snow. Dashing clouds moved languidly overhead, obscuring the sun. This was the perfect day to explore the art of ruining her own business. "Isn't this a bit risky?" Kymani Taragon called from behind her, his voice warm and teasing against the frost. He was striding with that effortless grace, despite the icy terrain, his dark coat billowing slightly like the night sky. Elysia turned, pulling her hair back into a messy bun. "What's life without a little risk? I've got bigger issues than the cold," she quipped, green eyes alight with determination. She squinted at the barren trees looming ahead, their limbs stretching towards a perpetual gray like fingers reaching for salvation, or perhaps a fight. "Larger issues might include A's and B's, corporate sabotage, maybe?" Kymani shot back, catching up to her with a smirk that contrasted with the situation, his deep voice both soothing and tantalizing. He was an anchor in this mercurial storm. Elysia hesitated as she approached a small, frozen pond that mirrored her reflection, and the knot of uncertainty tightening within her. "Don't be dramatic, Kymani," she replied, her tone laced with light-hearted defiance, though the weight of his words dug into her heart a little. "Just because you're Mr. Tall, Dark, and Sweet-Talk doesn't mean you get to control every move I make." Kymani raised an eyebrow, clearly fighting a grin. "Actually, I thought that was my new job title. Mr. Tall, Dark, and Sweet-Talk, Protector of Elysia's business. It has a nice ring to it." She rolled her eyes but felt the corners of her lips twitch upward. "And what are your qualifications for this role?" "Extensive experience in saving people from themselves," he declared, crossing his arms and leaning ever so slightly closer, his warmth battling the icy air. "And I must say, you wouldn't want to tarnish that lovely reputation of yours." "If my reputation gets tarnished, at least I'll look good while doing it," Elysia replied with a wink, but the chill in her laugh betrayed her confidence. As they moved forward, the icy solitude surrounded them, every crunch of snow echoing in the silence. Kymani stepped into her path, halting her progress with a stillness that pulled them closer. "You know, you don't have to do this alone," he said softly, a touch of sincerity underlying his words. "You have me. Whatever you're battling, I'm here." The words hung between them, flickering with unspoken tension. Her heart thumped harshly in her chest. Elysia could feel layers unraveling, her fears, her doubts, what it meant to let someone in. "Is that your way of saying you're interested in a partnership?" she teased, though her voice trembled slightly. Kymani stepped even closer, reducing the distance between them to a breath, his gaze steady and penetrating. "It's my way of saying I'd rather face 100 icy ponds than let you take this on by yourself." A rush of heat flared in Elysia's cheeks, and she instinctively took a step back, grappling for her poise. "You really think I can't handle this?" Her voice edged toward challenge, but her pulse quickened. "No," he replied, shaking his head earnestly. "I think you can handle everything. I just don't want you to be frozen out there, struggling alone. We can figure things out together." The wind picked up, swirling white flakes around them. Elysia inhaled deeply, the crisp scent invigorating yet overshadowed by unending uncertainty. "It's not just about me," she confessed, dropping her bravado, allowing a small crack in her tough exterior. "There are too many people depending on me to make this work." Then let me help you carry that weight. Kymani reached out, brushing snowflakes from her hair that fell like memories. His fingers lingered, causing her breath to hitch momentarily. You're not just strong, you're resilient, and maybe a little reckless. Reckless? You just called me ambitious, Elysia retorted with mock indignation, yet her heart danced at the warmth in his tone. Together, they shared laughter that echoed off the distant hills, slicing through the frost. For a fleeting moment, the world outside melted away, leaving only two souls braving the cold together. Just think of me as your rebuffing shield against whatever terrible contract you're crafting, Kymani suggested, a playful smile tugging at his lips. Is that the best you could come up with? A shield? Elysia chuckled, feeling renewed courage bloom in her chest. Little did they know that the real battles lay ahead. With eyes locked, a palpable connection sparked, warming the frost around them, igniting a slow-burning tension filled with possibilities. A shield, a spark, whatever you need me to be, Kymani said, his voice low and sincere. As they shared a heartbeat suspended in time, Elysia murmured, Fine, but only if you promise not to drop me like a hot potato if things get messy. Kymani's laughter danced in the air. I can assure you I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time in a long while, Elysia felt the ice within her begin to thaw as the potential for something beautiful stretched before them, glimmering like sunlight across the frost-kissed snow. Scene 4. Avalanche of Emotion. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine as the early afternoon drizzle turned the mountainside into a slick expanse of darkened stone and foliage. Elysia Ndidi stood at the edge of the site, her heart fluttering with a delicate mix of nervous energy and fierce determination. Today marked the final phase of her ambitious project, and every little detail felt monumental. She adjusted her glasses, the lenses fogging slightly from the cold, while the gentle tapping of raindrops played a rhythmic accompaniment to her thoughts. Kymani Taragon approached from behind, his presence almost tangible. Underneath the charcoal-gray raincoat, he carried an unshakable confidence that spoke volumes, igniting a warmth in the chill. You know, if we keep this up, we might have to start charging for the view. It's quite breathtaking, he said, gesturing to the misty valleys below. Elysia tilted her head, a playful smirk teasing her lips. Breathtaking? Is that how you'd describe a day drenched in rain? I, for one, prefer my vistas dry. Ah, yes, but you see, Kymani replied, stepping closer to her, the tension between them thickening like the mist around them. There's beauty in shared misery. Wouldn't you agree? His voice had a deep, soothing cadence that made her heart race, and she could feel the butterflies of excitement dancing in her stomach. Before she could respond, an ominous roar echoed through the clouds above, drawing both their gazes upwards. The light dimmed, and a shiver of apprehension racked her spine. What was that? Elysia asked, eyes widening. Kymani's face darkened as he glanced to the towering cliffs. Elysia, we need to move. Now. The warning in his voice sent her heart plummeting as instinct kicked in. In a race against time, they sprinted toward the rest of her team, their footsteps splashing in the growing puddles beneath. Just as Elysia reached out to grab Kymani's arm, the ground trembled, and a cacophony of rocks and snow whisked past them in a thundering avalanche. Elysia! Kymani shouted as he yanked her out of the path, his gripping warmth enveloping her, and they fell into a narrow alcove pressed against the cold rock. Her breaths came fast, and she was jolted by the proximity of his body. Their eyes locked, the world around them dissolved into a blur of cascading ice and stone. Panic clawed at her, but the heat radiating from Kymani drowned out her fear. Kymani, we! He silenced her with an intensity that felt electric. Stay close. We'll get through this. The proximity ignited something wild between them, a frisson that crackled in the air like lightning. She caught herself inhaling the scent of him, whiskey musk mingled with earthy cedar, a tantalizing perfume that wrapped around her senses. Everything else faded, and in that moment, all she could feel was the strength of his body against hers, the undeniable chemistry swirling like the storm outside. Her heart raced not just from fear, but from the weight of closeness that hung between them. Why do you always feel the need to rescue me? Elysia said, her voice shaking slightly, a playful challenge lacing her words. Kymani's lips curved into a grin, the tension easing just a touch. Because you're worth saving, Elysia, always have been. As she caught his gaze, a truth stretched taut between them, something unspoken yet understood. The air felt thick with promise, laced with a thrilling anticipation, the kind that spun a web of desires just beneath their confident facades. He stepped closer, brushing his fingers against her cheek, the gesture tender and electrifying. Then, silence enveloped them as the world outside paused, giving them a moment that felt eternal. Caution melted away, and with a breathless urgency he leaned in. Their lips met soft, then deepening, igniting a spark that consumed them both. The kiss tasted of rain and the thrill of survival, radiating an intensity that sent ripples of warmth flooding through her body. But just as quickly as it began, a rumble of thunder roared back to life, reminding them of the chaos surrounding them. As they finally pulled apart, breathless and wide-eyed, Elysia's pulse thundered in her ears. She clutched his jacket as if grounding herself. "That was," she started, but Kymani interrupted. "Let's get you to safety first, and then we can talk about whatever that was." His voice held a teasing lilt, but the seriousness of their reality hovered like the mist outside, urging them forward into the unknown. The moment may have passed, but it left an indelible mark, sparking a fire neither of them could deny as they faced the challenge ahead, together. Scene 5, Gala of Secrets. The gentle swell of the ocean rocked the luxurious yacht, its grand exterior gleaming in anticipation of the night ahead. Inside, laughter echoed amid the clinking of crystal glasses and the hushed rustling of silk and satin as elegantly clad guests mingled, each person a carefully crafted illusion of wealth and power. Underneath the soft glow of chandeliers, the air was thick with a mix of excitement and underlying tension. In this sea of glitz, what do you think is lurking beneath? Elysia asked, her gaze sweeping the crowded room, taking in the swirling forms of opulent gowns and tailored suits. Kymani, positioned casually against a marble pillar, raised an eyebrow and smirked. "More sharks than you'd care to admit, I bet. Everyone's here for a piece of something or someone." His voice dripped with amusement, yet his dark eyes surveyed the room with the intensity of a hawk. Elysia let out a soft laugh, swirling the deep red wine in her glass as she momentarily relaxed, only for the tension to creep back as she noticed Jayton, a ruthless competitor, ensconced at the bar with a group of precisely styled elites. "I swear he's been watching me all night," she said, her playful tone slipping into something more serious. "I'd be more worried about you looking back," Kymani replied, his voice low and serious now. "He's like a vulture waiting for the weak to fall." He took a step closer, their bodies now just a breath apart, the warmth between them palpable against the chilling backdrop of the opulent night. "Keep an eye on your flank, Elysia. You may be more vulnerable than you think." "Thanks for the advice, Mr. Tall, Dark, and Mysterious," she shot back, her eyes narrowing playfully as a hint of laughter danced on her lips. "But I can handle myself. I've navigated worse waters than Jayton's pathetic schemes." Kymani scoffed, the corner of his mouth twitching as he blocked her from stepping further into the crowd. "I think we both know that your past hasn't exactly sung sweet melodies, especially around him. Just remember, it wouldn't take much for him to drown you out." Elysia straightened, caught between irritation and the undeniable pull she felt toward him. "I'm not drowning, Kymani, and I'm not some damsel in distress, waiting for a hero to swoop in and save me." "Is that so?" Kymani's gaze locked onto hers, a mixture of challenge and challenge reflected back. "You're right. You're not a damsel. You're more like the very ship that's going to capsize if you don't adjust your sails." Elysia huffed out a laugh, the tension breaking momentarily between them as the faint strains of jazz floated through the air. "A ship? Really? What am I, a galleon? That's a bit much, don't you think?" "More like a battle cruiser," he countered, retreating a fraction, then leaning in as if sharing an intimate secret. "Strong, remarkably well-crafted, but always sailing perilously close to uncharted waters." Their playful banter was interrupted by a loud crash from the bar, where Jayton's drink had toppled over, sending liquid splattering across a nearby guest. Laughter erupted, reframing the moment with light-hearted chaos. "Looks like he's making a splash, but not in the way he intended," Kymani chuckled, drawing Elysia's attention back from the scene. "Why do I get the feeling that this was an intentional display?" she mused, analyzing Jayton's expression as he shot daggers in her direction, fueled by humiliation. Because you have astute instincts, and he's all tactics, no subtlety, Kymani observed, the ambient light casting shadows on his angular face, emphasizing the intensity that had grown between them. But you have to be smarter. Is that your way of telling me I should wear a life vest? More like a suit of armor, he replied, stepping even closer, the electricity between them crackling. As they held each other's gaze, silence punctuated the chaos around them. Elysia felt the pull of uncertainty and temptation swell around her like the tide. And if I don't want armor, if I want to dive in unprotected? Kymani's lips curled into a half-smile, his demeanor softening, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. Then at least promise me you'll have a life raft nearby. Elysia flushed, the intensity of the moment igniting something deep within her. Maybe I'd prefer to swim, with you. Then let's find out how deep this sea really goes. With that, their connection felt like it transcended the lavish gala, threatening to unearth something neither had dared to acknowledge, their fates entwined in the currents of chaos surrounding them. Scene 6. Below-deck conspiracy. The soft hum of the boat's engines gently rocked Elysia Ndidi as she stepped below deck. Dim lights flickered from the elegant sconces, casting shadows that danced along the polished mahogany walls. She pushed a stray curl behind her ear, the faint scent of salt water mingling with the fresh linens. It felt like a secret world down here, tucked away from the sunlit deck, isolated and oddly comforting. Yet, as she turned the corner into the cramped galley, the comfort shattered. Did you hear? Elysia's keeping her business afloat by sheer luck, one of the crew members sneered, leaning casually against the counter. If Kymani wasn't pulling strings behind the scenes, she'd be out of business before the sun rises again. Elysia froze, her heart thundering in her chest. She pressed her back against the cool wall and leaned in slightly, curiosity piqued. The crewman, a tall man with unruly hair and a crooked smile, continued. Right? I heard he's got the inside scoop on everything. Blackmail, shady deals, you name it, he chuckled, shrugging off his words as a joke. That's not what I heard, another voice chimed in, a woman with a voice like honeyed wine. Those two are keeping each other warm in more ways than one. She raised her eyebrows suggestively, eliciting a round of laughter from the other crew members. A wave of heat rushed through Elysia. Anger bubbled beneath her skin, warping the comfort of the space into a sticky web of deceit and betrayal. She could boil over or retreat back to safety, yet retreating felt too much like giving in. What's the plan then? You think if we let her drown, Kymani will finally come running back to us? The man continued, his voice dripping with mockery. Their laughter splintered in her mind, each chuckle a nail in her resolve. Elysia stepped forward, her voice sharp as ice. You really think I'd crumble so easily? My business is solid, unlike your half-baked plots, she declared, deliberate and steady. The crew fell silent, surprise washing over their faces. Yet she didn't wait for their response. Instead, she turned sharply, ready to storm out, when she bumped straight into Kymani Taragon as he strolled into the galley. His imposing figure filled the doorway, an elegant threat wrapped in tailored dark attire. What's going on here? He asked, his gaze flicking over Elysia, concern etched in his brow. He seemed to sense her turmoil, as a thunderstorm brewing over the horizon might beckon sailors. Elysia's words tumbled out. They think they can? Think? Kymani interrupted. They know. His voice was low, a soothing balm but also a warning. They hear the rumor mill spinning, and they just stepped into a hurricane. He cracked a slight, enigmatic smile. I'd watch my back if I were you. It's getting bumpy on deck. Like I need you to tell me that, Elysia shot back, eyes narrowing, but the tension tethered her to him. Kymani's presence was electric, flickering with unspoken emotions, filling the space with crackling energy. Maybe it's time to confront them, he suggested, his tone shifting, urgency lurking beneath the surface. Or we can quietly take measures to protect your interests. His dark eyes offered a challenge, and something deeper. Like I haven't seen enough of your measures. Do you think I need you to save me again? She countered, voice firm but edged with uncertainty. Kymani stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Elysia, this isn't a game. Your hard work deserves better than their petty attacks, and you deserve more. The warmth of his body radiated against her, intense, possessive, and yet playful. "Is that your version of a compliment?" she retorted, teasing but with a flicker of vulnerability. "Consider it a warning. They'll try everything. Divide and conquer is their playbook," he said, fingers brushing against her arm as he leaned in ever so slightly, sending a shiver up her spine. "But they won't get away with it." A flicker of mischief sparkled in her eyes. "I like to think I'm capable of defending myself, Kymani." "Good," he replied, allowing a wry smile, "because I'm pretty busy convincing people that you're untouchable." The tension sang between them, thickening the air, merging humor with something deeper, a tacit pact marching into uncertain territory. Elysia took a deep breath, the smell of sea and wood mixed with the electricity that buzzed around Kymani. She felt a rich cascade of possibilities unfuriate. If she could weather this storm, there was a bond waiting to unearth. "If they push, I'll push back," she said, standing tall before him, quietly resolute. "Then let's show them what you're made of," Kymani replied, voice gravelly and full of promise. As their eyes locked, something shifted, as though their destinies were momentarily intertwined in that swirling storm below deck. Scene 7, Heated Exchange. The late afternoon light slanted through the tall windows of Elysia's office, drenched everything in a warm golden hue that felt worlds away from the turmoil bubbling beneath their skin. The luxurious, minimalist decor, smooth wood, steel accents, and minimalistic art only emphasized the tension in the air. Kymani stood by the door, arms crossed, his presence a mix of storm and sunlight, conflicting energy holding her gaze captive. "You're being reckless, Kymani," Elysia exclaimed, frustration spilling over like coffee from an overfilled cup. She ran a hand through her distressed curls, a mixture of ebony and mahogany that danced tousled, betraying her fidgeting mind. "You can't just storm in there and hijack our proposal without thinking it through. It's called saving our skins, Elysia. You think letting them have the upper hand will solve anything?" Kymani shot back, his voice low but charged. As he stepped closer, the air crackling between them. "Oh, and I suppose your way is the master plan? Since when did throwing caution to the wind become a strategy?" Elysia's heart raced as she challenged him, her frustration instead igniting something deeper. "This isn't just about you and your brilliant schemes. This is my company, my future. And it's my life, too." Kymani cut in sharply. The intensity in his tone made her pause. She felt something shift, an unexpected vulnerability shimmering just beneath the surface. "Do you even hear yourself?" Elysia lowered her voice to a near whisper, her hands clenching at her sides. "Your life. What about me? What if your blackmailing rival plays their hand? Your secrets could unravel everything I've built." Kymani straightened, the shadows flashing in his dark eyes. "And what if they do? Elysia, don't you see how intertwined our paths have become? You think I'm playing games, but make no mistake, I'm fighting for you." Elysia's breath caught. The passion in his voice thrummed through the air, thickening the space that separated them. "You fight for me while dragging me into your chaos?" she said, her voice barely more than a breath. "Chaos? I thought we were in a battle here." He closed the distance, fuming yet imploring, a storm of emotions swirling around them. "Do you really think I'd expose you? I wouldn't allow it." She stepped back, as if struck, his fierce loyalty clashing harshly against her self-doubt. "But you're not just talking about your life, you're dragging me into dangers I can't control. Just listen." His tone softened for an instant, a stark contrast to the heated surf surrounding them. "I'm trying to protect us, Elysia. If we don't prevail together, we might not get another chance." Caught unprepared, Elysia felt her resolve falter, the tension morphing into something electric. Kymani. The vulnerability in her eyes disarmed him, and in that instant, the walls between them crumbled. With the air thickening, he found himself inching closer, his heart beating like a drum against the steel of his rib cage. "Trust in us. In me." She blinked rapidly, a mixture of hope and confusion. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean." He took another step closer, the heat between them palpable. "We can't afford to hide from each other, this thing, whatever it is between us." Elysia's pulse quickened with every heartbeat, his close proximity igniting a fire within her that craved resolution. "Kymani." In that breath caught between them lingered everything they hadn't said, the longing and the anger merging into something undeniable. Something fragile yet fortifying worked its way between their shared breaths, their words dying on their lips. And before the room filled with rational thought once more, Kymani leaned in, tilting her chin to meet his gaze, unwavering, vibrant, alive. Their lips met in a surge of heat and softness, a kiss that spoke unrestrained volumes, pulling them into a shared understanding of vulnerability and fierce desire, a moment both raw and tender against the backdrop of chaos. As the kiss broke, they stood there, breaths mingling, minds racing, uncertain yet charged, the weight of their reality looming just beyond the door. Kymani's voice finally broke through the silence, low and compelling. "We're in this together. Don't ever forget that." Elysia nodded slowly, her heart racing, as their worlds spun precariously on the edge of their newfound truth. Scene 8. Betrayal Revealed. The weight of silence filled the air as Kymani Taragon leaned against the metal railing overlooking the bustling skyline. His eyes scanned the horizon, where the luminous city lights flickered like stars fallen to earth. He inhaled the sharp tang of late-night traffic mixed with the distant scent of fresh rain, a comforting reminder of the world outside his turmoil. Yet, tonight, something gnawed at him with an urgency that turned his stomach into knots. Elysia Ndidi entered the rooftop garden, her presence like a bright comet illuminating the subdued chaos around them. The soft patter of her heels on the polished stone seemed unnaturally loud in this moment. She was anxious, her features a mix of determination and doubt. The flickering candlelight around them danced with shadows, revealing the elegant lines of her profile, the way her brow furrowed slightly under the weight of unspoken words. "Why did you lie to me?" Elysia's voice cut through the night, sharper than a knife. Her hands rested on her hips, a standoffish stance that challenged him without words. Kymani dragged a hand through his hair, frustration boiling beneath the surface. "I told you everything that mattered." His tone was calm, but the tremor in his chest contradicted him. "Everything. Or just what you thought I could handle." Elysia's skepticism turned her words into armaments, ready to fire. "What about your family's connection to Blair Bundy? Did that slip your mind?" The mention of her rival struck a nerve. He turned, locking eyes with her, the truth settling in like an unwelcome gust of wind. Elysia stepped closer, her warmth a stark contrast to the chilly air swirling around them. "You trusted me, Kymani. Didn't you think I deserved to know?" Heart pounding, he took a measured breath. A nearby fountain gurgled softly, oblivious to the storm brewing between them. "I didn't think it mattered. Blair is a snake. I've kept my distance." Elysia's expression darkened, muscles tensing. "But it does matter. You and I," she paused, measuring her next words. "We're already entangled in all this. You should have told me about your family, about your past." Silence hung heavily, stretching between them like an unbridgeable chasm. Elysia flicked her gaze away, her lips pressing into a thin line. "How can I trust you, Kymani? Am I just another pawn in your game?" The air crackled with unsaid thoughts, and Kymani stepped forward, the desperation flooding his voice. "Elysia, I care about you. This isn't some game. My family, we're not on speaking terms for a reason. Blair is desperate and deceitful." Elysia crossed her arms, her stance defensive, as if shielding herself from an impending barrage. "Desperate enough to ruin me?" She swallowed hard, her eyes shimmering under the soft glow of the moon. "You don't get it, do you? The stakes are too high for me. I can't have you hiding parts of yourself from me while everything else around us is collapsing." Kymani's heart raced as he stepped into her space, the tension thick like the scent of rain on parched soil. "I'm trying to save you from her, from this mess." The urgency in his voice slipped, revealing his deeper fears beneath his bravado. Elysia's facade faltered, her resolve wavering as she studied him, the depth of his dark eyes, the fierce determination radiating from his very core. "And what if you can't save yourself?" The vulnerability in her tone struck him, weaving through his heart. "I won't let that happen." The gentleness in his voice contrasted their earlier confrontation. He reached for her arm, brushing his fingers lightly against her skin, anchoring them amid the chaos. Elysia flinched, but didn't step away. "You can't promise that." "I can promise to be here, to fight for us," Kymani replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But I need you to trust me, no more lies from either of us." Her eyes searched his, the flicker of doubt and desire igniting something deeper between them. With a sigh, Elysia leaned in slightly, the tension shifting as hope flared amidst their conflict. If you're a villain, then I'm the fool falling for the worst kind of trouble. Kymani's lips quirked into a smirk. I prefer to think of it as dramatic. And who doesn't love a good drama? Elysia rolled her eyes, but the corners of her mouth lifted, despite the heaviness still hanging above them. Maybe the universe has a sense of humor after all. Trust me, the universe and I may be on speaking terms, but it rarely listens. Elysia chuckled softly, though the weight between them was still heavy. Then let's hope it finds a way to help save our drama. Kymani took a step closer, tension still palpable in the air, a silent promise lingering between them. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about the undeniable connection forged through shared struggles, the flickering flame of trust ignited in the vast, dark unknown. As the night deepened, they remained intertwined in their messy reality, both aware that the stakes had never been higher. Scene 9. When Worlds Collide. The narrow, cobblestone alley echoed with the rapid rhythm of heartbeats, the late afternoon light struggling to peek through the high walls that loomed like sentinels. Elysia Ndidi pressed her back against the cool, uneven stone, the dampness seeping through her tailored jacket. The air was thick with the smell of rain-soaked earth and the lingering scent of fresh pastries from a nearby bakery, becoming an ironic backdrop to the tension simmering just behind her ribcage. She barely had time to catch her breath before Kymani Taragon's imposing figure coalesced in front of her, darkly handsome and brimming with an almost feral tension. "Kymani," she murmured, peering up into his eyes, her voice cracking slightly. "What are we going to do?" "They know we're here." His jaw tightened, muscles coiling like springs. "We need to move, now." He flicked his gaze to the mouth of the alley where shadows shifted ominously, as if beckoning the ghosts of his past. "I can't just run from everything forever," Elysia protested, her tone rising an octave. "I have a company to save, a life." "What life? One tethered to a past that's haunting you?" Kymani's voice whipped back, a mixture of anger and something else. Concern? The implication hung in the air between them like the scent of rain before the storm. The brief silence was electric, crackling with unsaid words, palpable regret, and a simmering resolve. Elysia's eyes glimmered with indignation. "You don't get to decide for me, Kymani. I have fought tooth and nail to build something real. You think I haven't faced my demons?" He stepped closer, intensity radiating from him. "I'm not trying to decide. I'm trying to save you, damn it!" Elysia huffed out a breath, feeling the heat radiating off him, mixing with her own rising fury. "From what? From being strong, because that's all I've ever done." Their argument danced dangerously close to confrontation, the kind that left no room for denial. Each word felt like a stab, both liberating and wildly unhinged. "Strength is not just in undertaking every burden alone," Kymani snapped back, the edge to his voice sharpening. His flashes of vulnerability were intoxicating, drawing her closer despite the friction. "Let me help. Let me protect you." Elysia turned away, the prick of unwanted tears threatening to spill over. She hated the way he made her feel so exposed, so unguarded. "You think you can just swoop in and play the hero? This isn't some fairy tale." "Clearly, you need a different kind of prince in your life," he shot back, frustration dawning on his brow. Just then, the echo of approaching footsteps jerked them back to the stakes at hand. Kymani's hand shot out, pulling her close, their bodies barely a breath apart. His voice dropped to a whisper, laced with urgency. "They're closing in. Trust me this once." His dark brown eyes pierced into hers, anchoring her in the swirl of emotion and the all-too-real threat surrounding them. Elysia inhaled sharply, the warm scent of him, sandalwood and musk, enveloping her senses. She could feel her resolve softening as she met his earnest gaze. "What do we do? I'm not leaving you to deal with this alone." Kymani's expression softened ever so slightly, a moment of vulnerability breaking through his fierce exterior. "We fight. Together." With the vow exchanged, he turned, scanning the alley, plotting their escape. Elysia felt an intoxicating rush. This man who walked the line of danger and charm invoked a tempest in her heart that refused to stay tethered. Torn between her ambition and the undeniable connection swirling in her chest, she followed him. As they slipped further into the shadows, her pulse raced, fueled by countless emotions: fear, excitement, and an unexpected warmth blossoming in her chest. What if it gets complicated? Kymani glanced back, a ghost of a smile gracing his lips. Oh, Elysia, it's already complicated. Let's just make sure we both come out in one piece. The alley seemed to contract around them, flirting with danger and intimacy as they faced an uncertain future. The world outside closing in had never felt so alive, so vital. Scene 10, Public Defiance. The early morning light filtered through the expansive glass windows of Elysia Ndidi's office, casting patterns on the plush, earthy-toned carpet that provided an almost comforting backdrop to the chaos brewing in her mind. With a determined flick, she arranged the vibrant yellow and orange file folders on her desk, a rainbow of ideas waiting to take flight. Today was the day she would unveil her bold new business plans to her board, no matter the risks. Kymani Taragon stood by the doorway, arms crossed, his tall frame silhouetted against the bright horizon. Dressed in tailored navy blue, he looked like a storm looming over the morning sun, his expression carved from granite. Elysia, are you absolutely sure about this? She paused mid-staple, the sound of metal punctuating the silence. You always say that, she replied, irritation threading through her voice. When have I ever backed down from a challenge? Quite recently, if I recall. Kymani stepped closer, the faint scent of cedar and spice trailing him as he crossed the threshold. This isn't just about you. It's about your company, your reputation. My involvement has already made things complicated enough. Elysia looked up, meeting his stormy gaze with a fierce set to her jaw. You're not the one making the decisions here. I won't let fear dictate my future. Oh, it's not fear I'm worried about. It's the wolves you're inviting to dinner. He leaned over her desk, the intensity of his voice cloaked in urgency. Elysia, they're circling, ready to pounce. Once you go public, there's no taking it back. She felt the weight of his words, but stubbornness flared within her. Then let them pounce. Perhaps they'll discover I'm not just some easy target. The tension in the room thickened, an electric charge dancing between them. Easy? This isn't a game. This is your livelihood. Kymani's voice softened, a rare vulnerability wrestling with the steel of his demeanor. I won't let you gamble with everything you've built. Elysia straightened, the air between them taut with defiance. And I won't let you treat me like a damsel needing to be rescued. I can handle my business, Kymani. Yes, and I admire that about you, but that doesn't mean you should barrel through like a bull in a china shop. There's more at stake than pride. His words hung in the air, punctuated by the sound of her rapid breaths. And what exactly would you suggest then, Mr. Taragon? Elysia challenged, her voice almost playful, yet laced with seriousness. Should I just roll over and let them have their way? If you want to make it through this, let's strategize. Pull your presentation until we've figured a way to outmaneuver them, he proposed, his eyes locked on hers. The passion coiled within him, a mix of admiration and exasperation, like a delicate dance of shadows across the wall behind them. Instead of responding, Elysia let the silence sway between them, deepening the tension. The world outside faded. There was only Kymani, his intensity illuminating the facets of her otherwise clouded ambition. You're just afraid that if I stand up, I'll be strong enough to stand alone, she muttered. His response was instantaneous, edged with sincerity. Afraid? No, I believe in your strength. I just believe in my need to protect you more. Elysia took a breath, her heart a drum of conflict. Then trust me just this once. I need to be true to myself. Kymani stepped forward, seemingly drawn by an invisible thread between them. Okay, but promise me you'll be careful. Whether you believe it or not, I'd rather face those wolves with you than watch from the sidelines. Then you can stand by my side for support, she replied, a smile breaking through the intensity, warmth filling the space they inhabited. Now that sounds like a plan worth backing. His soft chuckle was like a quiet promise, one they both needed amid the chaos swirling around them. Then let's tear their plans apart. Elysia's voice danced with determination, her eyes sparking with renewed vigor, energized by the unyielding presence of Kymani beside her, a fierce protector in a world ready to pounce. Together, he whispered, and for a fleeting moment their breath mingled, palpable and potent, breathing life into their shared future as the evening skies prepared to unleash a tempest that neither of them could foresee. Scene 11. Shadowy Figures. Elysia stood in her sleek, glass-walled office, the city sprawling beneath her like a canvas of chaos. The vibrant lights were a stark contrast to the tumultuous emotions spiraling within her. Just days earlier, her life had been a well-ordered schedule, meetings packed with promises and success within reach. Now, shadows loomed over everything, threatening her business and undermining her spirit. Clenching her fists, she squashed the insecurities nagging at the back of her mind. "Growing a thicker skin is a lot more work than I thought," she muttered to herself, pacing across the polished floor, her heels clicking with purpose. But beneath her confident exterior, doubt gnawed at her heart. Would the threats against her company ever cease? The door swung open, and Kymani stepped in, his presence electric, as if he carried the weight of the world and still managed to stand at ease. "Elysia," he said, quiet intensity wrapping around her name, "are you ready to go? I have a plan." Her heart raced. "A plan? Is it another hurry up and get safe kind of plan? Because I don't think—" He stepped closer, minimizing the distance as he spoke. "We have to move fast. They've sent someone." "Sent someone? Who the hell would?" Before she could finish, the muffled sound of a shattering glass echoed through the office.